Hi Leos, this is your reading for the week of December 29th, if it resonates, and of course it will not be for every Leo. It could be, besides Sun, it could be rising, moon, or even Venus, or just a lot of Leo in your chart. So as I was getting ready to do the reading, the first thing that came to mind was you writing a book, but it's the book of your life. But it's the book of your love life. And what they mean by that, when I checked in with it, it's not just your romantic love life. It is how you've experienced love in your life. And I feel as though there is a disconnect somehow, because what I'm seeing is the next thing that I saw after I saw you writing that and hearing that, what I saw was you here, and then a space, and then an image. That there is a disconnect between the deepest part of your heart and how you represent yourself in the world, which does not mean to say you represent yourself unlovingly, but that there is a tenderness that is sometimes gone. And why is that? Why is that? That is because for some of you, it feels as though the model of what it's okay, fine. It sounds like the model of love and loving and being loved and what was expected of you in terms of being loving to somebody else was not really something that was tailored to your specific personality. It feels as though, like I would say many of somebody who's in, my certain age range, baby boomers and late baby boomers, were very much still connected to this image of what the family should look like, what the roles were between the men and the women, and all of that stuff. And there was certainly not a lot of, for most of us, I think, there was certainly not a lot of support in learning how to deal with our emotions, which makes perfect sense when you consider where our parents were, where they were in relation to their own emotions coming through depression, the world wars, and even later, that there was not really room or time for them to explore their own emotions in a way that allowed us to really be taught how to deal with it, because how can they teach something they're not aware of? And of course, in every generation, there are going to be those people who just come in with an emotional intelligence that they're able to share with people in their lives. But I would say for the most part, not so many, certainly not the majority. So Leo, how does this relate to you, my dears? Okay, so what I'm getting is this. Whatever sign we are, we're related to a particular element, either air, fire, water, earth, using the polarity model. And that every element has its strength and has its weakness. When a person is feeling threatened in some way, frightened, insecure in terms of the stability of their family or the emotional environment in the family, the tendency is going to be to lean into whatever the strength is in order to bolster that up. Now, that makes perfect sense to me as I'm hearing this. And if I put that into the context of you, Leo, one of your strengths is you have a very strong identity. That again, strength and weakness. It can be either when it's in balance and you have a strong identity and you're able to work with creating cooperation as opposed to demanding that people follow what you're doing, then that can be a great and wonderful thing. When, however, that fiery quality, because fire we associate with solar plexus, with the ability to control, with the passive aggressive or creating cooperation. Fire can have many different wonderful qualities to it, and it can be fairly destructive when it's used in an out of balance kind of way. Think of the difference between a warm fireplace with, the proper protection, the grates, all of that, versus a wildfire, right? One warms and heats, the other destroys. So any element that we express predominantly in our being is going to have the ability to go one extreme or the other, or be nicely balanced in the middle. So what some of you may have done, and I'm saying this for those who I am reading for this, for whom this makes sense. If what Spirit is suggesting is that you go back, no, not even go back, that you start looking at your life now and you look at it as a love life. And you look at love in your life, how it was presented to you, how it made you feel to have it presented that way. You might be able to determine what some of your protective mechanisms were that came online with that. It might have made you much more forceful, much more instructive and directive rather than suggestive. It may have put you in a position where, in order to feel safe, you felt as though you had to be in control, and therefore you became controlling in your personality, which, of course, as we know, can push people away. But it can also lead you to be into a position where then you are responsible for taking care of everything, when at a certain point it can turn into resentment, right? Now, the cards that come up for this I think are very important, because the first card that came up was faith. And faith in this particular pack is really talking about faith being linked to the internal journey of self-awareness and self-knowledge. And that makes sense to me in terms of what they're suggesting in terms of writing about love in your life. Then the other two cards, I've been asking for 3 card spreads, but these two came out stuck together. So I'm listening and I'm taking them. And one is grace and one is prayerfully. So prayerfully is about acknowledging that there is some kind of higher power. Whatever model you use, whatever template you use for working with the idea and the concept that there is life beyond what we see, that there is a metaphysical component to life and a mystical component, that there is a sacred energy, that there is dimensional energy, different dimensions. It's working with that idea and accepting that it's present at all times. Now, the other thing is grace. And I love this one, so I'm going to read it to you. Grace is a smooth, easy, peaceful, and supportive quality. It flows naturally into us and through us. It's an experience of letting the benevolent universe take us through our movements and guide us with a loving hand. Notice the feeling quality of this description and return to it today, every time you're about to do or think about anything, or at any point in the day when you find yourself feeling stressed and thinking too much. Now, beautifully, you also get the breathe card, which is talking about slowing down, taking a few deep breaths, and noticing how that changes how you feel. So for me, Leo, what this is really talking about is, it feels as though many of you are on a journey of self-discovery, dealing with love and how your experience of loving and being loved has shaped personality structures for you that may have led you into feeling overly responsible for people and the various different outcomes that might exist with that. You are being asked to really slow down and check in with that place that is here as opposed to that place that is here. This here is where the external face of how you're experiencing loving, love, and its components of control and controlling, and what the outcome of that is in terms of your resources, your energy, your well-being. This is really very much about you getting to look at that and see where the discrepancy is. What are you really feeling? Because if we're really trying to force a situation or constantly teaching, lecturing, trying to train people into being what we think they should be, or to define what their experiences are, even if it's done with good intention, it can be an energy that feels really imposing. And when it is felt imposing to people, the tendency is to resist. Now, again, depending upon the relationship you're in with people, it may not be that serious. But if you're in a close relationship with somebody, and this is something that plays out again and again and again, it can create a whole bunch of resistance to that act, that activity. And sometimes people will just go, well, I'm not going to bother anymore because they want to be in control of everything. So I've already offered and now I'm over here. That's it. Or it can be back off. I know what I'm doing. Thank you very much. It's time for me to spread my wings and express my own sense of autonomy here. So you can get all sorts of interesting different things. As well intentioned as you are, Leo, these things can happen for you. What Spirit is saying is this is a really, really good time for you to look at what loving has been for you. Look at where it's gotten in the way, and look at where there is a discrepancy between your tender heart and the controlling aspects. And when I say controlling aspects, I really want you to know, Leo, it is, however controlling it is, Spirit understands that for the most part, it's because this is the way you've been trained to love. And that now it's for as much for your good as for anybody else, as for you to be able to step back from that, because it's in stepping back from that you allow yourself to really genuinely be vulnerable. And it's really only in genuinely being vulnerable that you can actually really reconnect with other people at that deeper level that you so much desire. Okay? So again, this is a good time for it. You're being reminded. This is learning. This is about learning, developing your faith through your own awareness of who you are, leading into grace and the idea of higher consciousness and spirit presence in your life, and to slow down and breathe, because that's going to allow you to be in your tender heart, your high heart, and notice where the discrepancies are, so that you can start using all the wonderful qualities that you've got in terms of organization and structure and support, and turn it into something that is about creating cooperation where everybody wins, as opposed to you deciding what it should be and trying to tell them that, because that also is not good for you. It's not good for you in terms of where you get to express yourself, but it's also not good for you to be constantly in conflict or consistently in conflict with certain personalities who are not going to accept that kind of attitude, and it's going to just create frustration, okay, for both of you. You don't need that, because you're evolving into be able to use all of these wonderful gifts and this incredible, passionate, fiery energy in ways that are really supportive to everybody, where you get to also be taken care of, relax, enjoy yourself, as opposed to feeling like you have to be on guard and tell everybody what's relevant for them and what they should be doing. Okay? I'm going to leave you with that, Leos. Take care.